He was 17 years old when he made grown men look foolish for money. By 22, he was the most famous footballer on the planet. By 27, it was already over. This is the story of a boy from a Belfast backstreet who became a god and then spent the rest of his life trying to survive the fall. What happens when the whole world falls in love with you before you're old enough to understand what that means? George Best never fully found out, and neither, in some ways, did we. Belfast, 1946. A working-class neighborhood called Cregagh, where money was tight and football was everything. This is where George Best was born, into a family shaped by the hard economics of post-war Northern Ireland. His father, Dickie Best, loved the game himself, and he passed that love down early. Not through luxury, but through hours spent on cracked pavement and patchy grass, chasing a ball with nothing to lose and everything to prove. There was no comfort here, no guarantee of anything better. Best belonged to a tight, unglamorous world of school pitches and hard edges. The kind of place that either breaks a boy or forges him. Nobody in Cregagh could have imagined that a scout would soon walk into this neighborhood and change everything. But he did. And when he saw the skinny kid with the ball glued to his feet, he didn't just see talent. He used a word that would follow Best for the rest of his life: genius. What does a scout see in 30 seconds that takes the rest of the world years to understand? Most players spend years working toward a first-team debut. George Best didn't have years. He joined Manchester United at just 15, and by 17, he was standing in the first division, testing himself against grown professionals twice his age. There was no gradual introduction, no gentle build. United had found something rare, a player with balance, speed, and improvisation that couldn't be taught, and they threw him straight into the fire. It worked. Almost immediately, he became a sensation, helping United capture the league title in 1964-65, then again in 1966-67. For a teenager barely out of adolescence, this wasn't just success. It was a warning sign disguised as a triumph, because a rise this fast rarely comes without a cost attached, even if nobody could see the bill yet. If greatness came this early, how much higher could it possibly go, and what would it take to sustain it?
To understand what came next, you have to understand what Manchester United was still carrying. A decade earlier, the Munich air disaster had gutted the club, taking players and staff in a tragedy that scarred everyone connected to it. By 1968, United weren't just chasing a trophy, they were chasing redemption. That year, they became the first English club to ever win the European Cup. In the final against Benfica, with the weight of Munich still hanging over Old Trafford, it was George Best who scored in extra time. The goal that turned grief into glory. He was named European Footballer of the Year that same season.
Not just United's best player, not just England's most exciting talent, but the most celebrated footballer on the entire continent. He had reached the summit before most players even find their footing. But summits, by definition, only go one way, from the top.
Best wasn't just fast. He played with a kind of controlled chaos, two-footed, endlessly balanced, capable of dribbling past defenders as though they weren't there at all. Crowds didn't just watch him, they rose for him. But none of this happened in isolation. He played inside a Manchester United side stacked with legends, Bobby Charlton and Dennis Law among them, a team built on collective resilience as much as individual brilliance. That 1968 European Cup run proved it. United's triumph depended on a system, a dressing room, a shared burden, and Best supplied the moments of individual magic that turned hard-fought games into unforgettable ones. He looked effortless on camera. He wasn't, Behind every mesmerizing run was a demanding tactical framework and a group of elite players making it possible. But if his brilliance depended on structure and teammates, what happens when the structure starts to crack around him? Football had never seen anything quite like it. Best became one of the first athletes whose fame spilled far beyond the sport itself. A face of swinging London, a tabloid fixture as much for his looks and lifestyle as his goals. He wasn't just admired, he was consumed by a public that couldn't get enough of him. This kind of fame came with no instruction manual. He was expected to perform brilliantly every single week, to help carry a club still rebuilding from tragedy, all while embodying a glamorous, larger-than-life image the country had fallen for. The pressure wasn't just about football anymore. It was the collision of celebrity, expectation, and youth, and it was building towards something that would eventually consume him. How do you stay grounded when an entire nation refuses to let you be ordinary again? The fame that made George Best a legend also became the thing that unmade him. Drinking, once a private struggle, slowly became inseparable from his public story. It wasn't a single dramatic collapse. It was something quieter and more corrosive, a slow erosion that built over years rather than one shocking moment. Alongside it came the physical toll. His body, pushed through relentless matches and the rough physical treatment common to the era, began to wear down in ways that no amount of talent could reverse. There wasn't one injury that ended him. It was the accumulation. Lost continuity, interrupted rhythm, a career quietly bleeding out beneath the surface of still brilliant performances. By the time anyone realized how serious it had become, was it already too late to stop? The club that made him was also the club he would eventually lose. His final years at Manchester United were marked by discipline problems, suspensions, and mounting frustration. The visible signs of a talent slipping out of reach of even his own control. In 1974, at just 27, he left United for good. His time at the only club that had ever truly defined him was over. This wasn't the ending anyone had imagined for a player once compared to genius itself. There was no single scandal, no one dramatic incident to point to. Instead, there was a long, painful unraveling that played out in public year after year in front of the same fans who once idolized him. If Manchester United could no longer hold him, what was left for a career built entirely around one club's identity? What followed was a scattered, restless chapter. Best played for smaller clubs across Britain, then Spain, Australia, and the United States, chasing the game long after his peak had passed. He remained famous, perhaps more famous than some players who were still winning trophies, but the football itself had become inconsistent, shadowed by the same struggles that had driven him out of Old Trafford. There's a particular kind of tragedy in this. A man still recognized everywhere he went, still carrying the aura of greatness, yet increasingly unable to reproduce the magic that had made him a legend in the first place. He wasn't hiding from the game. He simply couldn't outrun what had already caught up to him. And on the international stage, there was one absence that would haunt his legacy more than any club failure ever could. For Northern Ireland, Best earned 37 caps and scored 9 goals. Respectable numbers for a small footballing nation. But he never once played in a World Cup finals tournament. Not because he lacked the talent, but because his country simply didn't have the strength around him to qualify. It's one of the most quietly devastating facts of his career. At club level, he stood on football's biggest stage, a European champion admired across the continent. At international level, he was a genius with nowhere to display it, confined by circumstances entirely outside his control. The contrast explains something essential about how people remember him: equal parts admiration and regret, brilliance and what could have been. But even as his playing days faded, one final chapter remained, the one that would define how the world would ultimately choose to remember him. After football ended, Best's health deteriorated in ways that mirrored the years of struggle before it. In 2002, he underwent a liver transplant, a last chance to reverse the damage of decades. It wasn't enough. On 25 November 2005, he died from transplant-related infections, the final chapter in a battle with alcoholism that had shadowed him since the height of his fame. His death transformed him into something more than a former footballer. He became a cautionary legend, proof that talent alone cannot protect a person from the forces fame sets in motion. Manchester United still counts 178 goals in 466 appearances for the club, numbers that confirm what everyone already knew. He was one of the most gifted players the game has ever produced. But his story was never only about goals. It was about how much a single human being can be given and how much it can eventually cost him. George Best joined United at 15. By 17, he was already extraordinary. By 27, the version of him the world fell in love with was already gone. What remains isn't just a highlight reel. It's a warning about the price of being unforgettable, and a reminder that even the brightest talents are still, underneath it all, only human. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like this video if George Best's rise and fall left an impression on you, and tell us in the comments, do you think fame destroyed his talent, or was it something else that got in the way? Subscribe to Football Dark Stories for more untold stories of the players whose brilliance came at a cost the scoreboard never showed.